Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Seems to be quite a delay this morning from what I'm saying to on air. But hey, we're already kicking off the program with 7 waves. How about that? We're going to get to some viewer comments, a lot of breaking stories from yesterday, late last night. Also, in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. So get your questions in. We have a lot of energy questions for him. But we're gonna focus on a couple other things as well. All right, let's get right to it. Some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Jimi Hendrix of Elmira has passed away. The man affectionately known as Jimi Hendrix, many of you know, kind of a local character. It is being reported that he has passed away. Thank you for that, Mark. And James Comey and Letitia James' trials are dismissed as judge ruled the prosecutor was unlawfully appointed. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Comment from Jack the Sticker Guy. He writes in, for the local news and listeners' views, we like your show the best. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jack the Sticker Guy. I appreciate that. There's a bumper sticker in that statement, he says. I agree with you. Well, thank you for the kind words to kick off this morning's broadcast. We do have a lot to talk about this morning. Before we get into the James Comey and we get into Mark Kelly and we get into all the news of the day, I just thought this was kind of interesting. Every once in a while you'll see an article that they claim, oh, no, social media does not affect you mentally. Don't worry, everything's fine. Well, Ricky Schlott has a piece at the New York Post, and it's not just Generation Z, Gen Z. All ages are being hit hard by the damaging side effects of social media. We've all heard how social media is devastating teen mental health, but a shocking new report confirms it's robbing pretty much everyone of the ability to focus. The meta study from Griffith University in Australia analyzed 71 surveys with more than 98,000 research subjects and found that consuming short-form video is associated with diminished attention span and inhibition control. The author of the new book, The Anxious Generation, said, I used to think the main damage from from social media was to youth mental health. Now I believe that the global destruction of the human ability to pay attention may be even larger. Doing an interview with the New York Post, he said humanity is getting stupider thanks to our technology at the exact moment when our machines are getting smarter. It started as soon as we all started carrying smartphones and scrolling past anything that contained 4 seconds of boredom. And that goes for all ages. And they went through the survey. Just something to keep in mind as we all may be guilty of using social media a little too frequently. Griffith University researchers found the negative association between attention and short-form content, defined as videos lasting a few seconds to a few minutes, was consistent across all age groups and all social media platforms. Quote, repeated exposure to highly stimulating, fast-paced content may contribute to habituation, in which users become desensitized to slower, more effortful cognitive tasks, such as reading, problem solving, or deep learning. This process may gradually weaken the brain's ability to sustain attention on a single task. So there you go, just something to keep in mind. You can find that full piece at the New York Post. So to Mark's point, the judge did dismiss the cases against James Comey and Tish James. The humiliating defeat for the administration came 11 days after attorneys for both Comey and James had argued that U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan had to be confirmed by the Senate after Attorney General Pam Bondi used up her allotted 120-day interim appointment on Eric Siebert, who resigned September 19th after Trump publicly criticized him for not bringing charges against the former head of the FBI. After Siebert's departure, Comey's attorneys argued the judges of the federal court district should have had exclusive say over who got to fill the vacancy. Instead, Trump nominated Halligan while publicly imploring Bondi in a social media post to take action against Comey, James, and Adam Schiff. Both indictments were dismissed without prejudice, which typically means that the cases can be brought again. Both defendants had asked that the cases be thrown out with prejudice, preventing them from being reopened. However, the ruling by senior U.S. District Judge Cameron Curry comes after the expiration of the 5-year statute of limitations against Comey, likely meaning the case against him cannot be reopened. Bondi vowed to appeal and praised Halligan as an excellent U.S. attorney. We'll be making all available legal actions, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct, Bondi said. The feds can try to argue on appeal that they qualify for a 6-month grace period to refile the indictment after dismissal, though Curry addressed this in her decision, saying in a footnote that Comey's case wouldn't qualify for such a grace period. Halligan's office can seek a new indictment against James since the statute of limitations hasn't run out in her case, rendering Monday's ruling a temporary procedural win for the Empire State's top lawyer. James saying in a statement, "I am heartened by today's victory and grateful for the prayers and support I've received from around the country. I remain fearless in the face of these baseless charges as I continue fighting for New Yorkers every single day." Now, Bondi told her, excuse me, folks. Bondi told reporters yesterday, "We'll be taking all available legal actions, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were betrayal of public trust." So there is your update. Sadly, not really a surprise, as you probably watched this unfold or heard us talking about it as it was unfolding. But whether or not that means that, well, it sounds like there's no grace period, so it sounds like Comey may be off the hook. Also yesterday, a major announcement. The Pentagon announced it is investigating Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona over possible breaches of military law after the former Navy pilot joined a handful of other lawmakers in a video that called for troops to defy, quote, illegal orders. The Pentagon statement posted on social media cited a federal law that allows retired service members to be recalled to active duty on orders of the defense secretary for possible court-martial or other measures. It is an extraordinary for the Pentagon, which under President Trump's second term had usually gone out of its way to act and appear apolitical, to directly threaten a sitting member of Congress with investigation. It comes after Trump ramped up the rhetoric by accusing the lawmaker of sedition, quote, punishable by death, in a social media post days after the video was released last week. In its statement, the Pentagon suggested that Kelly's statements in the video interfered with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces by citing the federal law that prohibits such action. A thorough review of all these allegations has been initiated to determine further action, which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures, the statement read. Now, Mark Kelly was then on the Rachel Maddow show. He said, "I said something that was pretty simple and non-controversial, and that was that members of the military should follow the law. And in response to that, Donald Trump said I should be executed, I should be hanged, I should be prosecuted." Rachel Maddow said, "Of the 6 Democrat lawmakers who made these statements, which have so upset the president, he's coming after you, or at least he's coming after you. First, do you have any opinion as to why you may have been singled out in that way?" Kelly said, "I don't know. We would have to ask him that question. Could be him, could be Pete Hegseth. I don't know. I wouldn't have been really shocked if any other president, did this. I would have been really shocked if any other president, did this. But when I saw that tweet today, it's kind of sort of made sense. I mean, these two guys, they informed me of this in a tweet because this is not above the law. This is about the media cycle and it's about intimidation. The whole thing is almost comical. Like, how does reciting the UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, we basically repeated the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and they're saying that it's a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It is absurd. So those are some of your breaking stories. Now, Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona warned military members that there will be consequences if they allowed Senator Mark Kelly to be court-martialed. Wow, a little threatening there. Gallego reacted to the Department of War's announcement earlier in the day that it was going to launch a formal review into Kelly. Gallego told CNN he has faith in the U.S. military and the justice system to handle the case properly, adding that officers know there would be fallout if they tried to railroad Kelly. Quote, Donald Trump is going to be gone in a couple of years. And if you're part of the military, that is going after sitting senators, sitting members of Congress, and part of the weaponization of government, there will be consequences without a doubt. I think there's going to be a lot of officers that will be part of this potential tribunal, if they want to call it that will be looking over their shoulders because they know that Donald Trump will be gone and they will not have that protection. They're going to have to do the safest thing possible, which is follow the Constitution of the United States, and you'll be fine. Gallego finished. Also, you're just seeing things that aren't very normal. You have the Marines who are walking around Los Angeles. You have National Guardsmen coming from different states into other states, even though those governors did not request that. You have a politicalization of the military that has never been seen before until this president has done it. And then you also hear the president saying things that are on its face illegal. All right. Now, another breaking story that we're going to get to when we come back from break. The United States and Ukraine have agreed on a new 19-point peace plan. We learned yesterday that there was some real concerns about the original peace plan. We're learning that the initial Ukraine-Russia peace plan was hashed out over dinner in Miami, and that Marco Rubio was unaware of the full scope until the day the draft was leaked. So that's the original 20-point plan that had kind of been drafted during these secret meetings with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner with a Kremlin insider in Miami. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio only learned the full scope of the proposal once it was leaked. Now, we're not going to go through the specifics of the old plan. We'll tell you a little bit about the new plan when we return. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Black Friday week means only one thing. It's time to start hot tubbing with your very own Hesselson's Hot Tub. Start making every day better by relaxing and being stress-free with hot water therapy in your very own backyard. With savings up to $5,000, why wait? Plus, 0% interest financing options up to 5 full years. All floor models must be sold at huge discounts as 2026 models are arriving daily. Don't wait, as Hesselson's annual Black Friday sales event will end Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Pass the ketchup?
No.
Dad? Are you okay?
Yeah, just stressed out.
Oh, and the melody is sounding so much better. I can play it for you. Wait, where's your guitar?
I gave it to your cousin.
What? That guitar's like your favorite thing.
I don't need it anymore. Some days are just better than others.
I think you should go talk to someone.
It's not that easy.
Have you been thinking about suicide? You can talk to me, Dad.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. Retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Let's put ourselves in the right position.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horsted's. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Yes, all the Christmas lights are up. What a beautiful view, getting us ready for Christmas time. Speaking of which, Thank you to those who have made their donations. By the way, we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio to the Salvation Army Telethon coming up on December 12th. People have been dropping off their checks or going online and donating there. That is coming up on the 12th. So mark your calendars. We'll really get you in the Christmas spirit from Crystal Chords and others. So that is coming up in no time. All right, some other breaking news stories. First of all, before we talk about the peace plan, I'm not going to jump around. I got to stay on track. Oh, a comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Great to finally know who is above the law. Thank you, Judge Cameron McGowan Curry. Sarcasm there. Thank you very much. All right, so a new version of the peace plan hammered out between senior Washington and Kiev delegations is proving more palatable to the Ukrainians and would remove several provisions that were previously described by U.S. officials as maximalist demands by Moscow. The new plan, said to include about 19 points, would nix one of the most controversial provisions of the 28-point plan reported last week, that Ukraine would have to give up territory in the Donbass that Russia has been unable to conquer in more than 11 years of war there. Instead, the issue of territorial claims will be left to President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky to hammer out at a later date, according to two people familiar with that discussion. It would also get rid of another sticking point in which Ukraine would have to promise never to join NATO, a goal that Putin has sought before invading the country back in 2022. Still, Zelensky made it clear on a post on X yesterday that the plan is not finalized. Quote, now the list of necessary steps to end the war can be more doable. As of now, after Geneva, there are few points, no longer 28. And many of the right elements have been taken into account in this framework. There's still work for all of us to do together to finalize the document, and we must do everything with dignity. He further predicted that Russia would try to derail this opportunity for an agreement and to prolong the war. We can see which interests are intertwined and who is trying to weaken our position. Ukraine's position, spreading disinformation, intimidating our people. We are countering every such attempt to derail the end of this war. The White House has previously pushed for peace deal signing by Thanksgiving, though Trump on Saturday said it was not a final offer kind of agreement. All right, another big breaking story. Yeah, we're moving quick this morning, but we got a lot to get to. And as I mentioned, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. So we've got this breaking news that we must get to ahead of time. Like this. Vince Shalomi, the once prominent infomercial pitchman. You may know him as the Sham Wow guy. He has filed paperwork with the Texas Republican Party to run for the seat held by Republican Representative John Carter. He said he is running to destroy wokeism in Congress. The Sham Wow guy is running for Congress and is looking to wipe the floor with the competition. Oh, you can see many having fun with this. Salami, I don't think that's how you say it, Shlomi, is running for the seat held by Republican Representative John Carter, who has served more than 2 decades in Congress. Carter announced earlier this month he'd run for re-election, so Shlomi has an uphill battle against an entrenched incumbent, John Carter, running for re-election at the age of 84. The former pitchman, best known for his role selling the ShamWow towels, told Fox News that he wants to destroy wokeism in Congress and that he'd been motivated by the political infighting in the country to run and make America happy. Now, back in 2009, Shlomi was arrested on suspicion of battery after a fight with a woman who was also arrested. Prosecutors declined to press charges. Shlomi told NBC News in an interview that he takes full responsibility for his actions and that he would cut down on partying. People understand you make mistakes in life. Hopefully I won't make another mistake. So we'll keep an eye on that race for whatever it is worth. All right, here's my question for you this morning. Kathy Hochul is patting herself on the back for that meeting with Mamdani and Trump. She said it was her advice to Mamdani that made it such a success. Do you really think, and I'm not saying she didn't offer probably unsolicited advice, I'm not saying that, but do you really think Governor Hochul is who you go to seek guidance from for an interview or for a meeting with Trump? Governor Hochul on Monday touted her advice to Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani as helping lead to his surprising cordial meeting with President Trump and possibly protecting the Big Apple from federal intervention. So it's all Hochul taking full credit. Boy, this is the kind of stuff Mamdani's not going to like. If there is going to be a DSA primary challenge against Hochul. Hochul revealed she talked to Mamdani before Friday's high-stakes White House sit-down and told him he needed to ensure Trump had confidence in his leadership to keep the president from sending the National Guard into New York City. He has already hit the ground running, Hochul said to Mamdani, and I have the confidence in him that I wanted the president to have as well, that we don't need any intervention. So there you are. Governor Hochul taking all the credit for Mamdani's, what they're calling a successful, it depends on where you go to. There's a piece at the New York Post this morning that praises the meeting and saying it's a big Trump win. Then you have kind of far left media saying that Mamdani played Trump like a fiddle. But no matter what you think, at the end of the day, many are calling it a success overall for New York City. And Governor Hochul is there to take full credit. And it's all because of the advice she gave to Mamdani. Do you think that it had that kind of, that she has that kind of power? See, this is what I mean when I say she wants to be such a kingmaker. She wants to be a power broker, and she just doesn't have it. So she wants to take full credit for that. Also, since you have people with delusions of grandeur, maybe the poster child for delusions of grandeur, Andrew Cuomo. He thinks he lost the election because of Curtis Sliwa. During an interview on WABC radio, Cuomo described Sliwa as being a total fraud for decades. Cuomo also declared that Sliwa had not run. If he had not run, he would have won the election over Mamdani. Speaking with former New York Governor David Paterson, the two spoke about the mayoral election. Paterson admitted that he had never heard of Mamdani's name until February and questioned how Mamdani was able to do what he did. Cuomo said, quote, I always believed Sliwa would drop out because there was no way for him to win. All he could do was be a spoiler and be responsible for Zohran's victory. I couldn't believe that as a Republican he could live with himself, and the Republicans could live with him as the person who elected Zohran, which is exactly what happened. If he had dropped out, I would have won. I'm convinced. Because I would have gotten that 7. I would have been about a point from Zohran, but it would have changed the whole dynamic. He accused Sliwa of being out there with the clown show, spending more time criticizing Cuomo than Mamdani, referencing how Paterson said the radio station was receiving calls from Sliwa's relatives, claiming Sliwa had not received equal time. Cuomo pointed out that WABC and radio host Sid Rosenberg made Sliwa and gave him tremendous coverage. Again, talking about election coverage, nobody ever mentioned that Sliwa had been a total fraud for decades. I think Sid Rosenberg was still in Florida when it turned out that the Guardian Angels and Sliwa made up a whole raft of stories of rescues that they did that turned out not to be true. That Sliwa said he was kidnapped by the New York Police Department and held, and then admitted that wasn't true. I believe he cost me the election and stated that if Sliwa had not run, he would have won the election. Little sour grapes there from former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Speaking of that, I guess, I know I'm running late. Bear with me. There was something else here about Cuomo that I saw that popped up in my stack of paperwork this morning. There it is. Representative Dan Goldman is again taking aim at ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo's handling of the COVID outbreak, just as the congressman preps for an expected primary from an ally of Zohran Mamdani. Goldman, a Democrat from the Manhattan and Brooklyn district, has asked the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention whether the Cuomo administration's controversial March 25, 2020 directive requiring nursing homes to admit covering COVID-infected patients complied with or violated federal guidelines. Quote, I'm requesting clarification on whether this order was consistent with federal public health guidelines at the time. The directive put many residents at risk of increased harm. Although reversed 6 weeks later, over 15,000 New York nursing home residents died of COVID-19 during the early part of the epidemic. 15,000. Cuomo's directive, Goldman penned in his letter, also barred nursing homes from testing residents prior to being allowed or reallowed entry into the facilities. The timing of the request seems curious, considering Goldman is anticipating a stiff primary challenge from outgoing city comptroller Brad Lander, a Democrat who dropped out of this year's mayoral race to back Mamdani over Cuomo in the run-up to the avowed socialist historic win. It also comes as a surprise given that ranking Democrats on the House Select Subcommittee on the COVID-19 pandemic already issued their own report scorching Cuomo for interfering with the accounting of nursing home deaths and undercounting the toll by excluding fatalities that happened after patients were taken to the hospital. But the two-term congressman cited that report in his letter in seeking a more definitive answer. Quote, though we cannot bring back the loved ones lost, we must provide families with accountability and resolution. So there you are, a couple of Cuomo updates. Did not expect that this morning. We've got quite a few other things we need to get to. As I mentioned, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be our guest in the 7 o'clock hour, so don't miss that. I know we have a shortened week because of Thanksgiving, so we will not be here Thursday and Friday, so make sure you get your questions, your comments, your concerns, your criticisms in, and we will be right back after this.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
An Albany buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. The sounds of tutoring and tech and health and fitness and arts and music. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
Has a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups. Communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in, oh, baloney. I cannot believe Hochul gave Mamdani advice. She can't even run her own campaign right. That's what I mean. It's almost like when she talked about the endorsement, where it's, he hasn't endorsed me because it's got to be on my time frame. Sorry, I dropped something there. Because I want it to be on my time frame. We've never heard that from Mamdani himself. She is trying to act more powerful than she is. Now remember, back when Lee Zeldin campaigned against her and he did such an amazing job and won so many seats to the House for Republicans because of his hard campaigning, Nancy Pelosi came out and just went after Hochul. So Hochul has never reached that pinnacle that she wants to be at. Time and time again, she has missed the mark. So I think this is one of those things where Mamdani's not going to come around and say, no, she didn't give me advice. But I'm sure it was a number one priority, top of his mind, about when he was meeting with the President of the United States, what Hochul had to say. Comment from a different viewer. Comey off the hook. Another crooked judge, another ball dropped by Bondi. Oh, not a big fan of Bondi. Okay. Comment continuing. Hochul taking credit for Mamdani. We will remember that. Go Stefanik. Yes, a big, okay, we can jump around. I'm fine with that. Big endorsement for Elise Stefanik yesterday. Representative Mike Lawler, who many thought would perhaps run for governor, and then he decided not to, opening the door for Stefanik. Now you still have Bruce Blakeman in there ruffling feathers for some reason. But Mike Lawler endorsing Elise Stefanik, his one-time potential primary rival. The Hudson Valley representative formally threw his backing behind Stefanik. Elise Stefanik doesn't take, we'll say, baloney from anybody, Lawler said in an event alongside Stefanik at the Pearl River Elks Lodge in Rockland County, where he also chairs the GOP committee. There's a reason why Kathy Hochul spends every day attacking Elise Stefanik, because she knows she's about to get her you-know-what kicked next November. Mike Lawler likes swearing a lot, doesn't he? Elise Stefanik is a champion. She's a fighter for her district, for our state, for our country. She is someone who should not be underestimated, who has taken on tough fights, who ran when people thought it wasn't possible to win. Stefanik has been increasingly solidifying the support of the New York Republican Party officials behind her bid for governor, as Blakeman has been eyeing potentially launching his own campaign. The timing on that's very strange, almost to sabotage this race. The Long Island politician has been trying to court favor within the party, though Stefanik's already boasting a significant amount of endorsements from 58 of the 62 county GOP chairs throughout the state. Blakeman said in a statement yesterday, I have a lot of respect for both Mike and Elise, but the importance of the upcoming election requires the Republicans and conservative parties to pick the candidate with the best chance of winning for the benefit of the residents of the state of New York. Therefore, at the urging of so many businesses and community leaders, I'm continuing to explore a run for governor myself. So he still has not officially announced, suggesting that there's this big push that he could be Hochul. I don't understand. I really don't. First of all, I just think at the very basic level that in November you ask people to entrust you with their vote to vote you in as Nassau County Executive. You say, trust me, and people went to the booth and said, you know what, I'm going to put my faith and my trust in Bruce Blakeman for Nassau County Executive. And nearly the day after he gets it, he says, never mind, now I want to be governor. I just, it's very frustrating, and I look forward to hearing people a little bit more on the ground and what they have to say about it. And again, Bruce Blakeman is not really making the news. Most of it is just as a footnote to when Elise Stefanik is getting the attention. Now, Stefanik said of Mike Lawler and his endorsement, Mike Lawler and so many of my colleagues on this stage will tell you, we work as a team. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, this is a large coalition of common sense New Yorkers who are focused every day on saving our great state. He was also, well, we don't need to tell you everybody that was at that meeting. Now, Stefanik also holds the endorsement of a number of members of the state legislature and now most of New York's 7 GOP members of Congress. At a nominating convention, Stefanik would have more than 75% of delegates if each county followed the chair's endorsement, easily placing her on the ballot as the party's nominee. State GOP Chair Ed Cox told reporters in September he expected his party to avoid a primary for governor and for Stefanik to quickly be anointed to lead the Republican ticket as a gubernatorial candidate. Hochul, during an unrelated event in the Bronx, brushed off the new Stefanik-Lawler alliance, trying to claim that the two have moved to the right of President Trump. They're willing to be more extreme than him. It's a new chapter in politics in our state. That is for sure. All right, so there's your update on Stefanik, since someone mentioned it. We've got a couple other New York State issues that we'll get to. As I said, Phil Palmisano is going to be in the 7 o'clock hour, so we're rushing through some things very quickly. But I hope that you'll continue to be a part of the show. Because, boy, where do we got some things about the Democrats. We got some things about the Republicans. I don't know how much we'll be able to get to. Now, let's take a break so I don't run too late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
The Black Friday sales event is here. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships in Mansfield. Get savings up to $9,000 off MSRP on brand new Ford Super Duties. Or experience $13,000 off MSRP on select new 2026 Ram 1500s. And don't miss up to $12,000 off 2025 Chevy Silverado 1500s. Enjoy our lowest price guaranteed and get a 55-inch smart TV with every purchase now until the end of the month. So save some green off Route 15 in Mansfield where we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
A new day starts here. And it starts now with the Disability Information and Access Line. Dial is a resource hub here to help you and your loved ones thrive by connecting you to local experts and support. Our dedicated staff is available by phone, text, video, email, and online chat. And we can assist you in your preferred language, including ASL. No matter how you contact us, our staff is ready to provide education and resources about independent living, accessible transportation, advocacy, and more. Starting here. Starting now. Dial is your helping hand for finding resources, answers, and local support. We are by your side, always. Connect with us today at 888-677-1199 or dial.acl.gov.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Our beautiful view of the Christmas lights here on historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. Mark writes in and he says, to further my thoughts on Hochul, I joined the Elise Stefanik for Governor group. Well, good for you. I know some people have been making their donations or $200 checks and supporting Stefanik, so it's going to get interesting here. I just wish Blakeman, that it's almost like it's prolonging the campaign that she can't just hit the ground running. It's very frustrating. I just wanted to pass this along to you because I've heard a lot of talk of Ken Burns' new documentary about America's founding. Well, Rich Lowry at the Post said, few documentary films have the natural authority of a Ken Burns production. The narrator of his works, Peter Coyote, is as close as we have today to the voice of God, the phrase once associated with legendary CBS anchor Walter Cronkite at the height of the power of the broadcast news. This makes it especially outrageous that Burns needs the viewers of his new epic documentary, The American Revolution, a childish canard right from the outset. Burns implies that the Iroquois Confederacy, a union of 6 Indian tribes or nations in New York State, crucially influenced the founding of the United States. This is a nice fairy tale, but has no connection to reality. And Burns and his colleagues who worked on the documentary for about a decade had time to verify this claim. At the beginning of the film, the narrator intones that long before 13 British colonies made themselves into the United States, the Iroquois had a union of their own that they called, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, a democracy that had flourished for centuries. We are told that Benjamin Franklin proposed that the British colonies form a similar union, the so-called Albany Plan. He printed a famous cartoon of a chopped-up snake, illustrating his point with the legend, join or die. The narrator continues, 20 years later, join or die would be a rallying cry in the most consequential revolution in history. There's much to unpack in this passage, which is carefully constructed to be misleading without being flagrantly false, although it doesn't succeed. It is certainly true that the Iroquois had forged an enduring confederacy, but this was hardly a unique contribution to political practice. History is littered with all sorts of other examples of this form of alliance. And he goes through and gives some of the reasons why he just calls this essentially woke. The American Revolution has been praised by the New York Times for seeking to strip away what Burns calls the barnacles of sentimentality and nostalgia around the event. Actually, the film is committed to creating new barnacles, more congenial to the ears of an audience that wants romanticized history about oppressed groups, but not about our own history. So it goes, in elite opinion, 250 years after the greatest event in the modern era. So there you go. If you plan on spending the time, that was Rich Lowry's take on it. All right, let's get back to local here for a moment. The Steuben County Legislature on Monday adopted the 2026 county budget following a scheduled public hearing finalizing a spending plan that holds the property tax levy increase to 1.9%, a rate that remains 1.56% below the current inflation level. County officials said the plan reflects steady financial discipline while continuing to support essential programs and services across Steuben County. The 2026 budget maintains the county's overall fiscal strength, balancing operational needs with long-term planning, while mandated social service costs, personal expenses, and inflation in materials and maintenance continue to exert pressure on local governments statewide. Steuben County's budget continues its investment in core areas including public safety, transportation, and social services. Despite rising operational demands, the adopted budget preserves the county's stable reserves, sustains its capital outlook, and continues an approach that has prioritized conservative financial management for many years. Officials note that the county remains well-positioned heading into the new fiscal year. Of course, the budget takes effect January 1st. County Manager Jack Wheeler said adopting a budget in today's financial environment is never simple, but this year's plan is a strong reflection of Steuben County's stability and our commitment to the people we serve. Even with increasing state mandates and inflationary pressures, we were able to maintain essential services and keep the property tax levy increase minimal. This budget positions us well for 2026 and continues the steady, responsible path that the taxpayers expect. So there is a very local update. All right, also on New York, I thought this was nice. At a time when, with Mamdani taking over as mayor soon, not knowing how he will interact with the NYPD, having said some pretty horrible things about the NYPD in the past. But this Thanksgiving, the NYPD handed out about 100 turkeys and chickens to needy Bronx families Monday evening, and that's just a fraction of the thousands expected to be provided by police across the city before Thanksgiving. Officers set up tents outside the 45th precinct for the day's turkey giveaway, with personnel from the NYPD and volunteers from the department's youth group pitching in to help out. New York City Police Foundation President and CEO Susan Birnbaum said it may seem like a simple gesture, but the fact is that for families facing food insecurity, this is really critical to them. The turkeys were provided by the Police Foundation, which donated more than 3,000 turkeys for giveaways across the entire city. 3,000 turkeys will be given away. And the event at the Bronx Station House was also just a sliver of the effort. Every precinct across the Big Apple is giving away birds for the holiday and similar events that kicked off last week and will continue through Wednesday. Birnbaum said there are a lot of families right now facing food insecurity, and the fact that we have the option to be able to provide these resources through the generosity of the donors to the Police Foundation, and then the NYPD can distribute these turkeys to their community. It's just a win-win for everyone. I thought it was a nice story as we near Thanksgiving here. Just something a little bit different. All right, how am I doing on time? And do we want to talk more about Mamdani? Boy, there's a lot of if you were paying attention to the mainstream media, you would think it's essentially all over but the shouting. Republicans are not going to win ever again, perhaps, but definitely not in the midterms. Now they're saying there could be more people retiring or resigning, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. At the Hill, GOP lawmakers are growing increasingly concerned over signs that 2026 midterm elections could be a wipeout for Republicans that could cost them the control of the House and shave down their Senate majority by 2 or 3 seats. Republican senators say the off-year elections in New Jersey, Virginia, and other parts of the country on November 4th served as a wake-up call and warned that President Trump and Republican leaders in Congress need to address voter concerns about the slowing economy and persistently high prices, which is so frustrating. I mean, you've got 11 months in, and President Trump's supposed to undo everything, all the damage that Biden did. But also, New Jersey and Virginia, 2 blue states, remain blue. And that's the bellwether that's supposed to show that the end is nigh for Republicans. Republicans acknowledge that rising health insurance premiums, the issue Democrats want to put front and center in the election year, along with health care costs more generally, are a major problem for their party. There's growing anxiety in the Senate and House GOP conferences that Trump's sinking approval rating will create a headwind in swing states and districts. But GOP lawmakers say they still have time to improve their party's image before next November. They argue Democrats' failure to come up with an effective solution to rein in health care costs and the rising power of the far-left Democratic candidates gives them a chance to cling on to power in Washington. Thom Tillis, said if we are where we are today in the beginning of the second quarter of 2026, then I think we're in for a really rough time in November. We have plenty of time to address this. There's a lot of positive things that we're doing here, that the administration is doing. But if you mess with healthcare, if you don't get healthcare policy right, if we don't get some of the cost policies right, we're going to have major headwinds next year. We also learned that furious House Republicans warn that more explosive resignations are coming after Marjorie Taylor Greene, a senior House Republican, is warning that this decision could start a deeper implosion inside the House. Greene, who will retire in 42 days, announced the end of her tenure Friday with a sweeping indictment of Trump's second term and the party supposedly tasked with backing him. Her central argument is that Trump and the House Republicans are abandoning the president's priorities, growing complacent, and barreling towards wasting a razor-thin majority. All right. Now, in their speculation that she wants to run for governor, and we know all that. Several GOP lawmakers told reporters they are also weighing midterm retirements. And another clearly frustrated senior Republican delivered a blistering assessment of the party's trajectory. This entire White House team has treated all members like garbage, all. And Mike Johnson has let it happen because he wanted it to happen. That is the sentiment of nearly all appropriators, authorizers, hawks, doves, rank and file, the lawmaker said. Again, speaking to the Daily Beast, the far left outlet, speaking on condition of anonymity. So take this with a lot of grains of salt. He blasted what he called the arrogance of this White House team, accusing them of running members roughshod and threatened while denying them even little wins like announcing small grants or even responding from agencies. Not even the high profile, the regular rank and file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they are going into the minority after the midterms. More explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel, and they will lose the majority before this term is out. All right, we got to take a short break. A couple other things on that. But that's the main headlines. Why Mike Johnson is losing control of the House, et cetera, et cetera. We got a couple things on the Democrats that I want to mention as well when we come back. So stay with us. Don't forget, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be joining us in the next hour. So get your questions, get your comments in for Phil. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Which one am I on here? Frankly Speaking, after this.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Black Friday week means only one thing. It's time to start hot tubbing with your very own Hesselson's Hot Tub. Start making every day better by relaxing and being stress-free with hot water therapy in your very own backyard. With savings up to $5,000, why wait? Plus, 0% interest financing options up to 5 full years. All floor models must be sold at huge discounts as 2026 models are arriving daily. Don't wait, as Hesselson's annual Black Friday sales event will end Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm a different kind of threat. You can't call the cops on me. I don't even have to break in. I'm invited.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Sorry I ran out, so I didn't get a chance to read your comments. We'll read them in the next segment as we get ready to wrap up hour number 1, so please be patient. But we will get to your comments here in just a little bit. All right. They're saying with Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, it could actually spark another shutdown. We know what Greene announced. We know that. But the manner and timeline of her resignation has Washington and Georgia abuzz, questioning her motivations and gaming out the impact. Georgia law dictates that within 10 days of a congressperson's resignation, the state's governor must call a special election to take place after at least 30 days from his pronouncement. If no candidate wins a majority in the jungle election, during which all candidates run against one another regardless of party, a runoff with the top 2 vote-getters takes place 28 days later. By prolonging her election, Greene all but assures her seat will be empty during a period where Trump and Speaker Johnson and the American people, dependent on a functioning federal government, may need every vote they can get. If Greene had resigned last week, Governor Brian Kemp could have immediately called a special election to take place on Tuesday, December 30th. That would mean even if there was a runoff on 28 days later than that, Greene's replacement would be seated the morning after the January 27th runoff before the January 30th government funding deadline. Greene, by prolonging her resignation for a month and a half, removes much of the urgency of scheduling a special election. Georgia political operatives project Kemp to set a date in March. Additionally, by retaining her government employment until January 5th through the holiday season, when she will be earning her congressional salary for very little work, Greene will reportedly hit her 5-year government employment mark, at which point her government pension is vested. So a little bit of dealings for herself, it sounds like there, as we learn more about her resignation. Okay. Yes, according to Yahoo, Mike Johnson is losing control of the House. Okay. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. We'll get to your comments when we return.
It's the Black Friday sales event at Chilson Wilcox with huge deals on new vehicles all over the lot. Starting with $11,300 savings on Ram, 0% for 72 months on the new Ram Bighorns. Save $9,381 on Wrangler and save $7,400 on Grand Cherokee Altitude X. At the Wrap Up the Year sales event, save $8,300 on Gladiator and Pacifica. And just announced, no payments for 90 days at the Black Friday sales event at Chilson Wilcox.
You strive to live your best life. You grow, change, and thrive. But you may have questions along the way, especially as you age. Questions that the Elder Care Locator is ready to answer. The Elder Care Locator is your trusted ally, here to connect you to the support you need to age well at home. Whether it's assistance with finding transportation, healthy meals, or other resources in the community, a friendly, caring advisor is happy to help. And our connecting services are just a phone call away. The Elder Care Locator is a team of listeners who understand the challenges you face and can point you in the right direction. We're a gateway to trustworthy local experts in your community who can guide you on your journey to stay healthy, active, and engaged. The Elder Care Locator is here to help you live your best life with real people, real assistance, and real connections. 1-800-677-1116.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning, getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. Couple comments from viewers. Ken writes in, there are still many questions regarding the Butler assassination attempt by crooks. Why has there been no more information on the fact that crooks participated at the same shooting range used by Homeland Security? Why has there been no more information on the multiple encrypted accounts routed through foreign countries? This is a classic way of communicating with someone clandestinely that is mostly untraceable and has to be set up by someone that is very tech savvy. How was it possible that a Secret Service sniper who didn't know the location of crooks assessed the situation, located crooks, got a beat on him, and fatally shot him, all in the span of 7 seconds? Why has there been no more discussion about the parents who immediately secured the services of a high-priced lawyer? Why was Crooks cremated so quickly after the shooting? I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, but we hear bits and pieces of information, then nothing more, and finally we are told nothing to see here, folks. Thanks, Ken. I know that Miranda Devine did some really great reporting. We learn now that Crooks had much more of a social or a digital footprint. I should put it that way. I don't know so much about social media, but there was quite a digital footprint. You can find that reporting by Miranda Devine at the New York Post that gives us a little more insight and a little more of a look into that person. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I agree with the assessment of Ken Burns' documentary. I made it through the first episode and didn't care to watch any others. It was not up to his Civil War or baseball ones. Happy Thanksgiving. Well, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. A lot of people on the streets today. The New York Times is reporting that Chuck Schumer faces pushback from what they're calling a fight club of Senate Democrats. A group of liberal senators is quietly challenging the minority leader over his approach to the midterms and his approach to President Trump. Influential liberal senators directly challenging Senator Chuck Schumer and how he is approaching the midterm elections and President Trump in what is a sign of growing frustration among Democrats. And we know that AOC is discussing a potential Senate run against Chuck Schumer or if Chuck Schumer retires. Some of these senators include Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, Tina Smith of Minnesota, Christopher Murphy of Connecticut, Bernie Sanders of Vermont, and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. It reflects the widespread doubts among the Democratic base that party leaders in Congress have a strong vision and a winning strategy for returning to power. The effort also amounts to an extraordinary preemptive challenge to Mr. Schumer at the earliest stage of the 2026 midterm races. He has faced widespread Democratic criticism over his handling of battles against the White House this year and his refusal to endorse Mamdani. The goals and existence of the group, which have not been previously reported, were described by 9 people with direct knowledge of its deliberations. They spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the private discussions. With views of the Democratic brand at record lows, the group argues that the party must embrace candidates willing to challenge entrenched corporate interests, fiercely oppose the Trump administration, and defy their own party's orthodoxy. Other senators who have participated in the group's actions have included Edward Markey of Massachusetts, Jeff Merkley of Oregon, and Martin Heinrich of New Mexico. They are focused on contested primaries for open seats in Minnesota, Michigan, and Maine. The party's campaign arm, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, has not made any formal endorsement in contested primaries. However, the senators are convinced that it is quietly signaling support for and pushing donors towards specific Senate candidates. So a little bit of a fight club from the far left pushing back against Chuck Schumer and what they're calling a failed strategy heading into the midterm and a failed strategy on his response to Trump. We may have some other things to get to. It just depends on when the Assemblyman arrives into the studio. Yes, Phil Palmisano will be joining us. We look forward to that. That's coming up some point in the 7 o'clock hour. So make sure that you stay with us. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with hour number 2 after this.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized and a bust.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37, earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
Iraq, our
truck hit a roadside bomb. I had about 16 surgeries on my hand so that I could regain function. And when I came home, I needed a new roof due to a storm. And I was about to lose homeowners insurance as well. I applied for Operation Homefront Critical Financial Assistance Program. And it's good to know that when we come home, there are people who are there that care about us. Operation Homefront, they've really been a blessing.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've covered a lot, and we've got a few other things that we still need to get to before the Assemblyman pops in. Oh, just something interesting, get your opinion on. Vice President J.D. Vance is holding a commanding lead over potential rivals in the early 2028 Republican presidential primary landscape, according to a newly released poll by St. Anselm College, conducted November 18th through the 19th, with a margin of error of plus 2.1%. The survey of likely Republican voters in New Hampshire shows Vance with 57% support. That puts him miles ahead of the rest of the prospective field. The poll initially listed Vance at 54%, but a correction posted shortly afterwards clarified that the vice president's support actually sits at 57%. The next closest contender, Marco Rubio and Ron DeSantis. Interesting. Just something to keep in mind. All right, we're talking about the infighting when it comes to the Democrats going after that Fight Club, they called it, going after Chuck Schumer. There's a piece at The Hill that I thought was kind of interesting. When Trump quoted Harris's position, some liberal-leaning journalists just assumed he was making it up. Comedian Patton Oswalt appeared genuinely stunned and confused last week upon learning that California law allows birth certificates to list non-binary as a designated sex for newborns. The reason for the inclusion of a third category, the law explains, is that infants may later identify differently. His ignorance of a law in his own state, introduced and now enforced by a party he very actively supports, highlights two recent political curiosities. The first is that Democratic lawmakers keep adopting positions so demented that even their supporters refuse to believe they're real. The second curiosity is related to the first. Many Democrat voters appear to have created a cocoon of ignorance around themselves and their communities, so thick as to shield them from learning what their party is doing or how it functions. The education of Patton Oswalt occurred during a conversation with Bill Maher, who, like Oswalt, is reliably liberal but less insensible to the insanity that has overtaken many liberals today. Maher saying we stop being a scientific people. Oswalt said, but the left certainly stayed scientific. No, they didn't, Bill Maher said, because they think their gender baloney that they went way too far with, that's not scientific. And then they go back. I don't want to go through the whole back and forth that they have. You've probably seen it. To head off the inevitable whataboutism, yes, the Republican Party faces similar problems. But one key difference here is that a core tenet of the modern Democrat Party, and really its entire pitch to voters, is that it's more intelligent, better educated, and more open-minded than the GOP. The Democrat Party doesn't suffer from ignorance or insular thinking. It's the party of settled science, of experts, of rational thought. It's funny to see an organization that considers itself superior struggle with many of the same issues as the party it believes is filled with retrograde dunces. And this piece gives more examples of this where people thought that Trump was, when he was quoting Harris, they thought he made it up. I don't want to go through all of it. This piece is quite lengthy, but I thought it was interesting. The phenomenon goes far beyond two online comedians and sloppy journalists. Whether Democrats have acknowledged the issue remains to be seen, but Republicans have definitely noticed it, mainly because the disconnect between what Democrats support and what Democrat voters know of their own party has made Republican focus group testing much more difficult. When you outline the Democratic agenda, you have to water it down because in both polling and focus groups, people just don't believe it, a Republican staffer told Park McDonald of Tablet magazine. They are critical of things like boys and girls sports, but they tune out stuff about schools not informing parents about transitioning their children. They just don't believe it's true. It can't be true. And of course, it is true. Pollsters have found that voters will turn against Republicans for describing certain Democrat positions too accurately. For example, Republicans risk a negative reaction if they use the term like gender-affirming care, these type of things. In terms of overall well-being of the republic, it's not great that one of the two parties blindly supports whatever its chieftain says or does, but the other party seems to be in denial about what its elected leaders are doing in their name. Which is worse, blind loyalty or insanity? Is hemlock an option? That's Becca Adams, a longtime journalist and media critic in Washington. I thought that was interesting. Now, where do we want to go from here? Oh, did you see... there's a couple interesting pieces here. Scott Jennings on CNN, he rejected journalist Kara Swisher's argument that the censorship of the New York Post and the reporting on Hunter Biden was mere politics, telling her in a tense on-air exchange that the 2020 suspension campaign amounted to, quote, one of the biggest lies told to the American people. Interesting. Forceful. All right. We've got the Assemblyman coming up in just a minute. Don't forget, the Salvation Army Telethon is coming right up on December 12th. We've been receiving checks. Make sure you drop off your check here. Go online. That is how you can donate online. You can text the word telethon to 31333, or you can go to the website and donate, or just stop by the studio and drop off your check or cash. And we have the kettle already on the desk, and that telethon is again on December 12th. All right, stay with us. We will be right back with the Assemblyman after this.
I've been an employee for the Unified Court System for over 25 years, and serving on a grand jury was one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. The behind-the-scenes look at the meticulous process from police to district attorney to the grand jurors who vote whether or not to indict was eye-opening. It reaffirmed for me the grand jury's role in protecting the community, the victims, as well as the rights accused. Justice starts at jury. Jury starts with you.
Black Friday means only one thing. It's time to start hot tubbing with your very own Hesselson's Hot Tub. Start making every day better by relaxing and being stress-free with hot water therapy in your very own backyard. With savings up to $5,000, why wait? Plus, 0% interest financing options up to 5 full years. All floor models must be sold at huge discounts as 2026 models are arriving daily. Don't wait, as Hesselson's annual Black Friday sales event will end Saturday at 5 p.m. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
We are the nation's largest integrated healthcare system, providing life-changing care to over 9 million veterans.
Our hands are busy, competent, skilled, healing, helping, and friendly. A place where diverse teams come together hand in hand to provide full patient-centered care. Working in state-of-the-art facilities with influential leaders in healthcare, all with a single goal in mind: to help veterans heal, recover, and get their lives back in a place where everyone plays a part and where your efforts are truly appreciated. A place so innovative and forward-thinking that we're rebuilding hands, and where even robots lend a hand.
Join hands with us. Learn more at vacareers.va.gov.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we have Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Frank. Good to be with you again.
Well, it was nice that you called in last week. How was it? How was the energy tour around Washington? Or just the tour in general?
The tour was fantastic. I mean, it was a working tour. I mean, we met with the Energy Department, which obviously I was very happy about. We met with the Department of Health and Human Services. We met with the Education Department. We met with Veterans Services. We also met with part of the administration's team briefly. So we got around Washington and we saw some things. And of course, one of the highlights for me was to participate in the press conference with our Congressman Nick Langworthy, our next governor, Lee Stefanik, talking about the importance of the Energy Choice Act, especially given the policies that are being implemented here in New York State. But it was a great working trip, and it was just nice to see our colleagues. Saw Mike Lawler, saw Claudia Tenney, who I served with in the assembly, and I served with Mike in the assembly. So it was just a nice working trip.
Well, I know the press conference itself was great. And it looks like the Energy Choice Act is gaining momentum.
It is, and I think rightfully so, because I mean, you see some of these policies from some states like New York that are basically trying to take away energy choice. I mean, the governor, talks a good game about saying all of the above strategy, but the problem is her policies are not matching her words. Same thing with the draft energy plan. I mean, the draft energy plan says a lot of the right things. It talks about all the above approach. It talks about affordable and reliable. It talks about fuel diversity. But unfortunately, the policies that I keep reiterating, the policies that the governor is advancing, the progressive socialists in the legislature are advancing, totally contradict that message. And that's not a positive thing.
Do you think it's going to get worse? And we're going to get back to energy. But now that Mamdani won, do you think that kind of the Democrat socialists in the Assembly and in the Senate are going to feel more emboldened?
Oh, absolutely. And you can already see it. I mean, I have a number of my members on Democratic side of the aisle. I'm already hearing getting primaried. And they created a mess for themselves because they were adamant on passing taxpayer-funded campaigns. So now you see a number of these people qualifying for that, making it more difficult for them to run for re-election because of this as well. So that they're upset about it, but they created it. But those are the types of policies that are actually being advanced by the socialists in the legislature, unfortunately.
Yeah, and think about, since we're talking about election, obviously when we talked about the electric building mandate, Governor Hochul is already realizing how disastrous the energy policies are, and she's got to worry about a very tough race for her against Elise Stefanik. So I think we're going to be duped here for a little bit, aren't we?
Well, I think so. I mean, she did it on cap and invest. She did it on all electric buildings, and she wants to get through the election. I mean, even on the all electric buildings, and it was a good pause to have because a lot of people weren't aware of it. I met with a gentleman who was trying to build a house, and he wasn't even aware about it, 2 months away. I mean, there's a process to go through for that. You had to get building permits. It takes some time. It doesn't just happen overnight. So if you didn't have a permit by now anyway, you'd probably be in trouble, or they'd be rushing to get it. Yeah, but I mean, the all-electric buildings, like the cost side of it, the cap and invest. I mean, we're talking about when I get into costs and affordability later. I mean, you're talking about a plan that's going to increase the prices of the pump by their own number, 62 cents a gallon, increase natural gas home heating costs by 80%. Wow. All-Electric Buildings Act, the builders say, will increase building costs by upwards of $25,000. And here's a staggering statistic that they've cited: for every $1,000 increase in the price of a home, it takes 7,000 people away from home ownership. Wow, that's not what we want.
At a time when we talk about affordable housing, isn't it? It's so hypocritical on all of this. But we were talking. We had Joe Sempolinski on not that long ago, and we got talking about energy because people are passionate about it. And to your point, so many people were not aware that the electric house mandate was coming through because it was 3 years ago they passed it or whatever. They do their virtue signaling. They're saving the planet, but then all of a sudden the real world effects sneak up on you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can look at from a whole host of it. All this really, the premise starts from when we passed what they call the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, basically the Green New Deal for New York. It's supposed to be by 70% renewables by 2030, but the biggest one is by 2040. It's supposed to be net zero generation. Basically, all our generation is supposed to come from fossil fuels, so no natural gas, despite the fact that 60% of New Yorkers heat their homes with natural gas, despite the fact that 40% of our generation comes from natural gas. So you have policies like that, and then they've implemented these policies in the budget. The governor is quick to say, well, they passed the CLCPA when she wasn't there, but they passed the All Electric Buildings Act under her watch. They passed the Cap and Invest under her watch. Act regulation, advanced clean car regulation, which will devastate the auto industry and the trucking industry in New York, passed under her watch. The all-electric school bus mandate, the mother of all unfunded mandates, that passed under Governor Hochul. So I don't know what she's trying to pass the buck on. She owns this. I know. Even her spokesperson, when he delayed the All-Electric Buildings Act, said, we're committed to this. I mean, so, and then another breath, she's like, we need affordable and reliable energy. Well, everything she's enacting, the legislature's acting, is anything but affordable or reliable.
Right. Isn't it interesting when something like that happens, the environmental extremists turn on Hochul for a little bit? Yeah. I mean, that goes to show you how much adherence they have to the kind of this gospel of green energy policy.
Well, that's what I said all along. I mean, I remember there was one study that came out and said a couple of years ago, Governor Hochul had both Basil Sagos and Dorian Harris, the co-chairs of the Climate Action Council, which kind of devised the goals and ambitions for the CLCPA. had them go out and try to make people aware, and it landed with a thud because she did it after the budget. If just the methodology when we passed the CLCPA 20 says we use a 20-year methodology. Every other state uses a 100-year methodology. U.S. uses a 100-year methodology. International Code uses a 100-year methodology. If we do not just change the methodology to 100 years, we don't have to change anything else. It will increase prices at the pump by 62 cents a gallon. It's increase natural gas home heating costs by 79%. So you have that coupled with the cap and invest. I mean, they kind of work hand in hand. But those were their things. But she wouldn't put it in her budget. And I questioned during Harris at a budget hearing. I'm like, well, is the governor okay with these prices increasing? And if not, why doesn't she put it in her budget? She says, well, she's trying to do this. I know what she's trying to do, but if she wants leverage, she will put it in her budget. Same thing with this all-electric buildings, cap and invest. If she's really serious about pausing this, she needs to put these in her budget come January. Right. That's when you know she's serious about it. Otherwise, she's basically, her timeline, I think, is just to get through 2026.
I agree.
It's unfortunate.
And to your point, I like how she always blames, as if she hasn't been there long enough. She always blames Cuomo for so many things. I mean, at what point are you governor for as many years as she's been that you have to start taking kind of credit for some of this?
Exactly. Well, she's quick to blame everything. Not only that, I mean, listen, all the viewers know the rising utility rates are crippling with no end in sight. And what does Governor Hochul, and I'm not saying the utilities are innocent in this, but what does Governor Hochul do? She comes out and criticizes the utility. What do some of my Democrat, socialist colleagues come out? They blame the utility, saying it's greed. But they fail to look in the mirror and recognize it's, in fact, their green mandates that are creating this fiscal crisis for New York families and businesses on the utility side of the thing. They don't want to stop and look at their policies and see it. In fact, even one such, this total plan that they're talking about, estimates are over $250 billion to even up to upwards of $500 billion, according to the Empire Center. In July of 2023, the PSC approved $43 billion in future ratepayer increases specifically to pay for the green mandates, as they clarified it. So even the former commissioner of the PSC, John Howard's out there being very vocal, a Democrat, criticizing the policy, saying we need to pause. We had an affordability, it was never taken into consideration.
No. And something else I guess we're just supposed to ignore is the grid. The grid's not there. I know we talked about it, you and I, a million times, but we're just supposed to kind of ignore that we're not ready, the technology isn't there?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, basically, I always say people in businesses especially, they care about two things when it comes to their energy policy. Not necessarily green. They care about affordable and reliable. If you can't get affordable and reliable energy policy in New York, you will go elsewhere, and people already are. Just on the reliability side, and we can get back to the affordability because there's a whole list of them. On the reliability side for the viewer, we have this organization called the New York Independent System Operators. They're tasked with making sure, managing the grid, making sure the heat stays on, the lights stay on, the power stays on. And they've come up with both short and long-term warnings, red flags in the grid. The short-term warnings are in the next 5 years, especially for downstate, saying that there's gaps, there's not enough coming on while more is leaving, retiring fossil fuel plants, and that's problematic. But the bigger point I try to point out is the long-term. By 2040, to meet the net zero generation that they talk about, we need 27 to 45 gigawatts. And I know I sound kind of nerdy, just for the viewer. 1 gigawatt is the equivalent of powering 750,000 homes. Our total generating capacity in New York, with everything, wind, solar, hydro, natural gas, nuclear, and oil, is 41 gigawatts. So the New York Independent System Operators are saying we need 27 to 45 gigawatts of dispatchable emission-free resources by 2040. And wind and solar does not count because it's not dispatchable. It's intermittent. So the technology, what is it going to be? Is it going to be advanced nuclear? And I believe nuclear needs to be part of the equation. Number one, because it's clean, but it's dispatchable, reliable. And from land use perspective, and we could talk about that as well, compared to wind and solar. I mean, the amount of land you need for a nuclear power plant or a facility. If you look at Indian Point, which was shut down by Governor Cuomo, brilliant move, which provided 25% of the power to New York City. That's a 2,000 megawatt, 2 gigawatt facility on 240 acres. If you look at solar, you need 8 acres per megawatt. The Climate Action Council plan calls for 60 gigawatts of solar. That's 480,000 acres of land. Where do you think they're going to take that land? Upstate New York. They're not going to take it. There's no land in New York City. It's not going to be all rooftop solar. So nuclear is superior to wind and solar by land use, dispatchable, and reliable energy. So those are things. So that's the problem. And natural gas is often referred to as a bridge fuel. You don't tear down a bridge before you build a new one.
Right.
But that's exactly what Governor Hochul, with her policies that she's advancing and embracing, and the Democrats and socialists in Albany are providing. I mean, an energy policy that is not affordable, not reliable, not feasible, not safe, not embracing fuel diversity or energy choice.
Right. And it's such a mess because I don't think, going back to what we talked about with the electric buildings, people just aren't aware of this.
They aren't.
Because I think if you hear the news reports, you hear Hochul blaming the utilities, and then the utilities become the bad guys. And again, they're not perfect, but so when that bill comes in, she's not getting the blame that she deserves, or Albany's not getting the blame they deserve.
Well, of course, what they want to do is pass the buck and say it's all the PSC's fault. They always want to pass the buck. I mean, even the spokesperson for the governor, this is how ignorant. And I told them they have to get a new line. They blame the president and the tariffs. I mean, these policies have been implemented since 2019. For the viewer, here's a fact. In 2019, the residential electricity rate for electricity was 17 cents a kilowatt hour. This year, it's almost 26 cents a kilowatt. It's over 25 cents a kilowatt hour. That's 40% higher than the national average. That's that much higher than Pennsylvania. So if businesses are looking for affordable energy, where are they going to go? They're going to go elsewhere.
Right. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
I'm not here to fire you up. If you're not already fired up, you shouldn't be in this room. If this victory isn't worth all you have to give, then leave. But now, right now is your chance to be a part of a victory the world will remember forever. Victory over cancer. This victory isn't just happening. It isn't inevitable.
What does hope mean?
Now is our time, your time. You may save someone you love.
Time is very precious.
Today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. A victory that is there for the taking. Grab it. How was that?
Now that was a great halftime speech. Let's go win.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Never considered myself to be a heavy drinker. At first, I only drank with friends, then to get through the day. I hit rock bottom when I realized I was choosing alcohol over my family. That's when I made the call. With my doctor's help, I was diagnosed with alcohol use disorder. Now, I'm getting to the root of my addiction and finding better ways to cope. Mental health care works when you make the call.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Let's go to some viewer comments. Comment from this viewer: I find it ironic that Democrats defend Comey. He was the reason Trump beat Hillary in 2016. His great work saved the country then. His work after 2020 got Trump elected again in 2024. I think you were talking Comey earlier. I think you could guess. Ken writes in, as usual, I learned something new and important during every Frankly Speaking show. show. Well, thank you. I wondered why Marjorie Taylor Greene would wait until January to resign from Congress. It is now obvious that she waited to get vested so she could start receiving her $130,000 plus a year pension after only 5 years of service when she turned 62 in about 11 years. What a great deal we give our politicians. Good point. Thank you, Ken. And I'm not going to ask conspiracy theories. Someone wanted me to start asking you all the tough conspiracy theory questions. But they say, thank you for all your hard work, Phil. I hope that you guys have a great day and a happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. So we'll save the conspiracy theories for some other day, okay?
Sounds good.
Let's talk about more about the press conference. And that was basically for the Energy Choice Act, but they asked you to speak, correct me if I'm wrong, because you know energy in New York like the back of your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, that was, I've talked about this issue. I've done several, this was the third press conference I did with Congressman Langworthy on the Energy Choice Act. The other two were in Elmira. But, I mean, it was pretty cool, if I could say, and really surreal to be doing a press conference with the background of the U.S. Capitol behind me. But to talk about a very, very important issue, Congressman Langworthy's Energy Choice Act, to be there with Elise Stefanik, to be there with my former colleagues Mike Lawler and Claudia Tenney, and our majority of our Republican Assembly conference, and our leader Will Barkley, Leader Barkley and myself were asked to speak, and it was pretty surreal. But it's an important issue. I mean, and to put it in the context, I talked about how the governor's talking about all the above, but their policies aren't matching words. And here's the context to put it in for New Yorkers, which I don't understand. This summer, in June of 2025, there was a poll out. And it said 71% of New Yorkers do not want a ban on natural gas, including 76% of independents. That same poll said 2/3 of New Yorkers want a balance between renewable resources and natural gas, including 74% of Democrats. And also that same poll said 82% of New Yorkers said the utility bills are too high. You don't need a poll to tell us that. We know that. But the message of that poll is very clear. One, New Yorkers want energy choice. New Yorkers want affordable and reliable energy. But unfortunately, the policies being advanced here in New York aren't matching that. Affordability, reliability, feasibility, energy choice are not part of the discussion. It's just really actually a march to the full electrification of the grid, which is not able to handle it. And what I've said, their policies that are being advanced by this governor and by the Democrats and progressive socialists in Albany is simply designed to dismantle the affordable and reliable natural gas infrastructure supply and delivery system. Again, given the fact that, despite the fact that 60% of New Yorkers heat their homes with natural gas, despite the fact that 40% of our generation comes from natural gas, it's totally designed to take away consumer choice on how you heat your home, cook your food, power your building, and the vehicle you drive. It will jeopardize the reliability of the grid, leading to dangerous and deadly blackouts, and it will continue our nation-leading migration of more New York families, farmers, small businesses, and manufacturers leaving the state.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think even with the building mandate, but in general, we're at a time when there's a mass exodus in New York State of people and businesses. When, you see these big companies moving to Pennsylvania, Texas, wherever. Why would anybody even consider moving their business or starting their business here in New York?
I don't know. It is pretty concerning. I mean, I have a mayor of New York City who's talking about increasing taxes more.
I know.
I mean, do not realize the financial sector is really the heart and soul of the economy for New York City, but also for New York State, because 15 to 20% of our revenues come from that. You already see the financial sector moving out. They're moving to Miami. They're moving to Dallas. Dallas is getting ready to open up their stock exchange. I mean, the way things are mobile and with technology are today, you do not have to be in New York City to be a part of the financial industry. You just do not. No. And the one example I give the poll, I remember this poll, this one staggering number that kind of stood up to me. In 2000, we lost 3.57 million New Yorkers with an average income of $140,000. We're replaced by 3.5 million New Yorkers with an average income of $80,000 a year. But it was a net loss of 70,000 New Yorkers, but a net loss of $34 billion in taxable income. What does that tell you? And so they can say tax the rich all they want, but ultimately you're going to run out of those people who are going to leave because they're the most mobile they can leave. You're going to have no choice but to ask for New Yorkers to pay more in taxes to pay for all these free programs. Like he wants to get free bus service, free child care. That's not going to work. And then you have the same things that you're talking about. People want to change the healthcare system with the New York Health Act. that's being talked about now with everything, and that's 250. That's $250 billion in and of itself too. So we have a $250 billion energy policy, a $250 billion healthcare plan out there that they're talking about, and our total state budget is $250 billion, and we are losing more New Yorkers. That just relates that more New Yorkers are going to pay more money.
Exactly, and I think it's very scary that Hochul's so afraid of, I guess, a DSA primary challenge or whatever, or Mamdani's supporters, that she looks like she's going to cave into all of his demands.
It is pretty scary. Well, it's going to be interesting. The two keys I always try to tell people to look at is what she puts in her budget.
Yeah.
That will say to her what her priorities are, because on some of these energy policies, she needs to put them in her budget. And I met with the governor's energy liaison, and I've talked to them. I said, if she's serious about this, she will put this in her budget. I mean, stand up and do the right thing for New York. She says she wants to. She talks that, but again, the policies aren't backing the words.
Yeah, and I think when you have the high costs, that's why she's going to continue to go blame the utility companies, because she does have that tight race with Elise Stefanik, and Stefanik's going to be able to hit her on all these and her support for Mamdani. You know, that's going to be campaign ad number one.
I can almost envision the video. Remember that the Coldplay concert where the guy was up in the stands with the woman holding her arms around her?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be kind of like the same thing with Mamdani holding his arms around her, or vice versa.
Yeah. And I just can't believe she went all in on Mamdani. Yeah, he has yet to endorse her. That's awkward.
He did not.
I think there could be some rumblings of a primary challenge, which would be great if she had it. I mean, I know there's already one, her lieutenant governor, but I mean one where that you have the Democrat Socialists of America now energized and running against her, and it'll be interesting because she'll change her positions at the drop of a hat.
I did see on the Democratic Socialist, there was an article I caught briefly, I think it was this morning or last night, where there was a DSA person who was trying to run against Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, I know.
And they try to stifle that. Mm-hmm. And so it'd be interesting to see what happens how all this plays out. But a lot of my colleagues in the Democratic Assembly, I'm hearing, are getting primaries from DSA members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the Empire Report had a list of some of the people primaried. And like you said, Hakeem Jeffries, the bigger names of Mamdani's, AOC's asked the other guy to step down, but that doesn't mean he's going to.
No.
And I just think her concern, Hochul, for his supporters, which again, I know he won, but it was just a little over 50% in New York City, but she wants to cater her message to them.
I don't know. It's really disturbing. It's very scary.
Mm-hmm. I agree, but we better take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I got to remember what break we're on here, Phil. We're having too much fun. There we go.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Ferrall Auto Team! Get a new 2025 Ram 1500 Crew. Just $399 a month and $29.99 due at signing.
Or get a new 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sport S, just $399 a month and $29.99 due at signing. Just $399 a month. And remember what Don says.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money. The Black Friday sales event going on now at Ferrario.
Mental health and learning disorders don't discriminate.
I was about 11 years old when I started realizing there was something a little bit off.
17 million children and adolescents in the United States live with disorders like anxiety, depression, ADHD, and dyslexia.
Even the tiniest things, I was so terrified.
It literally feels like you're living in a black hole.
Less than half get the help they need to succeed and to thrive.
My life has changed tremendously since I've been given the tools.
My child needed help. She got it. Look at her now.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor and help kids find their brave voice, just like the Child Mind Institute did for me.
Help the Child Mind Institute change these children's lives. Visit childmind.org.
It's the tea party for Crystal with Miss Marshmallow.
Oh, wow.
And Sarah's first day of management training at Goodwill. When you donate to Goodwill, you help provide skills training and career placement. And the things you love.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Joining us in the studio this morning is Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Just quickly, a comment from a viewer. Mark writes in, the Energy Choice Act is a great thing, but I bet we will never see utility bills go back down because of Hochul forcing NYSEG to reinforce the grid. Probably. I mean, they got to build up on the grid.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And I mean, the PSC chairman at a hearing, and when I kind of questioned, isn't it the green policies? He's like, well, it's the aging infrastructure. Yeah, we have an aging infrastructure, of course. But the rate of electrification, how fast they're making us move forward with this electrification, that's why you have these utilities. And they don't care. They're making money off it.
Yeah.
But they have to invest in, wires and poles and versus pipelines, because they don't want, they feel like that's where the priority needs to be. And I think we need pipelines, and I think we need natural gas.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of this, because we've talked about this a lot, Phil, where do you keep the passion for energy policy? Not everybody. This is not everybody's hobby, energy policy, and what's coming out of Albany. So what is it that drives you when you talk about these things?
Well, it touches everything we do. This is my 15th year in the Assembly. Mm-hmm. This is my 13th year as the ranking member on the Assembly Energy Committee.
Right.
When I first went there, we asked for committee assignments. This was the first committee choice I asked to our leader at the time, Brian Kolb, for.
Oh, yeah.
So I was on the committee the first years, but when the person who was a ranker left, I went to him and said, I really like to be energy ranker, and I'll work at this, and I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of that. But, the CLCPA that we talked about, we passed that 3 years in a row. And it wasn't until the Democrats took control of the Senate that it became law.
Right.
I debated that bill on the floor for 30 minutes straight, 3 years in a row, because pointing out all the flaws that we talked about, the policies that come up, talking about the cost over and over again. Mm-hmm. I mean, I talked about some of the costs. A couple of the costs I didn't mention was that I've talked about in the past. Just to convert your homeowner from natural gas to electric. We were talking about 3 different studies saying $30,000 to $50,000 for what senior citizen on a fixed income, what disabled veteran can afford that? Even the draft energy plan, even though it says all the right things, to get to net zero generation, the viewer said, what about the energy bills? To get to net zero generation, that scenario would increase prices for New Yorkers. This is a month, not overall, $449 a month. That's what they're looking at. That's how completely out of touch they are. And it frustrates me when I hear Governor Hochul say she's for an all-of-the-above approach, but then you just look at her policies and the policies that have been enacted over the past several years. First, you have the fracking ban. Then you have the denial of the pipeline projects. Now we're seeing them happen again because I think of other issues that were in play with this. I see denial of air permits for new natural gas power plants. Also see denial of air permits for existing natural gas power plants. We have a Greenwich up in Yates County, in my district. They denied the permit for that for several years. Finally, they just renewed it for a 5-year period, which is a good thing in my opinion. We have the CLCPA, you have the cap and invest, which I talked about will increase prices at pump. According to their own former DEC commissioner, 62 cents a gallon, increased prices for natural gas 80%. The All-Electric Buildings Act that we talked about, the EV mandate, the mother of all unfunded mandates, the EV school bus, the ACT regulation, which will devastate the trucking industry in New York, which requires a ratio of buying electric trucks versus the number of ICE trucks you have. And it's not feasible. There's no electric charging infrastructure in the state of New York for heavy duty. I mean, the problems with that, the electric mandates, all this, and the thing I get frustrated about, we're doing all this in the name of climate change or global emissions. Here's the shocking thing that, and I talk about, there's so many problems with this plan that's going to hurt New Yorkers.
Right.
But New York only contributes 0.4% of total global emissions. China contributes 30%, has 1,000 coal plants, and building more each and every week. I explained earlier, we're 41 gigawatts of generating capacity in New York. China expanded their coal generating capacity 2 years ago by 95 gigawatts. I mean, that's double our total generating capacity just in coal. How does that make sense? And I remember Joe Biden, and I didn't agree with Joe Biden on much of anything, but I did agree with him when he said this. He said, if China's not with us, we're wasting our time. Well,
Right.
Joe was right on this one. We're wasting our time because China's not going to with us. And if you want to throw two more, if you throw India and Russia, that's 40%. Are those three countries going to help us meet, and here in New York, meet our clean energy goals? We can get down to zero, but we won't do anything to affect global emissions. But we will dismantle our economy, and we will drive more families and farmers and small businesses and manufacturers out of our state of New York. I talked about the reliability, about keeping heats on. I talked about the affordability, the feasibility. It requires a massive build out of the grid beyond just the dispatch, but we need to like triple to 120 gigawatts of generating capacity to meet that mandate. That frustrates me. Property taxes, people don't recognize that, property generators pay $1.7 billion a year in property taxes. The utilities, I mean, the gas, they pay on the amount of gas that goes through. If they're not allowed to put gas through their pipes, they're just going to depreciate that asset. Then those property taxes aren't going to go away. It's going to be passed along to the rest of the consumers. The land use, I talked about that. I mean, how much land use you need for nuclear versus how much land use you need for solar. You need the same thing. You need 30 acres per megawatt of wind. I mean, and you see all this coming up over our land. The one issue, though, that I don't talk about on this show that I'd love to talk about that really frustrates me, and I bring this up to environmentalists. I mean, the materials. We talk about how foolish the electric school bus mandate, the EV mandates are. But what my colleagues in the legislature don't want to talk about is the materials used to make the battery to power the electric vehicle or the electric school bus. Two of the main ingredients is cobalt and lithium. 70% of the cobalt is extracted in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Well documented that they use child labor, some as young as 6 years old. Yeah. These individuals, these kids go into these artesian mines, they refer to them as a hand mine, and come out with bags of cobalt, rock. These mines have collapsed on them, paralyzed them, they've lost limbs, they've died. I mean, that's what's happening with the extraction of this material. They don't want to talk about that. And if you want to go to the environmental degradation, lithium, the lithium triangle in South America, Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia, well documented the lithium, the mine, it's radioactive. They're poisoning water, rivers, and streams in those South American countries to mine and get for this lithium, because we need lithium and cobalt to produce batteries to power the electric vehicles. It's almost like, to my colleagues, it's okay if it's happening over there.
Right.
As long as it's happening over there, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If kids were dying here or getting paralyzed in New York or in the U.S., if water, rivers, and streams were being poisoned here, it would not be acceptable.
It wouldn't stand.
And that's why I brought this up to an environmentalist group when we had a hearing on utility rate increases. And I said, she goes, well, I'm looking at the child asthma. I go, I know what your talking points are, but you don't like fracking wells. You don't like oil rigs. Do you see any children working on them?
Right.
Of course you don't.
No, of course not.
And then the final point with this, too, that I bring up when I talk about this, besides that, is energy security. Mm-hmm. I mean, I talk about the materials, the rare earth materials being extracted in the Congo or the South American, the lithium triangle in these poorer countries. It's processed in China. Mm-hmm. China controls the processing of the rare earth material market, and you see that even in the U.S. trying to deal with them in negotiations from that perspective. So 90% of that material is controlled by China. Same thing with solar. 90% of the solar is manufactured and processed in China. How is this helping us meet our energy security goals when they won't even let us tap the natural gas that's underneath our feet here in New York State?
Exactly. I
don't understand it. Yeah, I'm passionate about it because this issue touches every single New York family, farmer, small business, senior citizen, veteran. This is an issue that's impacts our economy. It's just an issue that I would continue to learn and grow about, and I'm passionate about it. I get very frustrated about it. My blood pressure rises when I talk about it. If you can't tell, my voice I talk faster, so I'm trying to calm down, and I apologize for the viewer, but it's just something that I've just been really kind of geared into. I'll talk to anyone who wants to talk about it, but it's just, I can talk for as little about it or as long as you want about it.
Well, we didn't even mention, really, just in passing, the bus mandate, the electric bus mandate. And I just think if people complain about their school budgets now, imagine when that's up for vote and they see that number.
Well, Frank, and to the viewer, this is I refer to as the mother of all unfunded mandates. Yeah. This makes no sense whatsoever. Let's just talk about first cost. You get a near zero emission diesel bus. It's about $125,000 to $150,000. An all-electric school bus is about $400,000 to $450,000. That's triple the cost. The Empire Center did a study saying it would cost $8 to $15 billion in replacement costs just for the buses. Then you have the electric vehicle infrastructure, the battery infrastructure that you have to develop, billions of dollars, upgrading bus garages and things of that nature. And then the grid improvements. I mean, we did a press conference a couple of years ago. We had Horsehead School Superintendent and Shenandoah School Superintendent. Shenandoah said that it was going to cost them $30 million to put in a substation, basically to power the grid to the buses. And that was going to be borne totally by the property taxpayers.
Right.
Then you get the range issues. I mean, you have these bus routes. Steuben County is 1,400 square miles. It's bigger in the state of Rhode Island. You have to go a morning route and an afternoon route. How are they going to be able to do this? What they're going to have to do is they're going to have more buses. That's the problem.
Yeah.
What about when they go for a state tournament and travel 4 hours away?
They won't be able to.
How are they going to be able to travel to get there? I mean, in charge. I mean, that's going to be very, very problematic. I mean, it's one thing. So you have the range issue, the battery issue, and here's another thing. Fires. That's the other thing I didn't talk about, the fires.
Yeah.
These things burn hot and long. You've seen the battery fires in New York City in the apartments with the scooters. You've seen the battery fires in cars. You've seen Moss Landing in California. We had 3 battery storage fires in New York a couple years ago. If one of those school buses catch on fire, those kids are dead, period. No chance to get off because the batteries are right underneath them. If you have a fire on a school bus, diesel bus, well, the engine's in the front. They might have a chance, but if there's right underneath them, that goes up so quick, they don't have a chance. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is, because they have this mandate, they're going to, voters vote on school bus purchases right now, and they're turning them down. Ultimately, I think the state's going to take that right to vote away from them.
I do too. Because there's no way they'll get them through.
There's no way they'll get them through.
I mean, if you look at Corning and Horsehead and some of the places that have struggled in the past just to get their school budget passed, you add on top of that proposition at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, and here's the hypocrisy of the state of New York. Forget about cost, forget about reliability, forget about range issues, feasibility. The state of New York is asking school districts to convert their entire heavy-duty fleet by 2035. Begin purchasing 2027. Yeah, there's a couple delays. They can get some pauses till 2031. There's a couple, but ultimately the law says they have to convert their entire fleet by 2035. The state of New York does not have to convert their heavy-duty fleet till 2040.
Yeah.
A full 5 years after our schools.
They're the guinea pigs.
Yeah, why are we asking our school districts to be the guinea pig for this social experiment? And the property taxpayers, the state should do it first. And we put in a bill to say, okay, you can't purchase, the schools don't have to purchase a school bus till 2045 instead of 2027, or until the state of New York converts their heavy-duty fleet.
Yeah.
Whatever one happens later. So they have to let the state show they can do it. Let's make sure that the batteries are produced with U.S. sourcing and not using child labor.
Right.
Let's do a cost-benefit analysis and see how much this is going to cost. This was all passed without a cost-benefit analysis. Let's do a feasibility study. Work with the NYSO and the utilities to see what the grid needs to do to handle it. They did none of this. They're just advancing it to virtual signal because they think it's better for the environment. And it makes no sense whatsoever.
I don't even know if it's about the environment or it's just they get their press conference and they get their news article.
Well, they say they're for the environment. I mean, we got members who are saying that we get dinged as being anti-environment. Listen, I'm not saying we shouldn't be investing in renewable technology. We should, and we are. But it should be part of our portfolio. Just like your 401k, you don't put it on stocks, cash, and bonds. What do? You diversify it to protect it, to make it more resilient. We should be doing the same thing with our energy portfolio. We should have fuel diversity. And when you have fuel diversity with a balance of nuclear, with a balance of natural gas, and with the balance of renewables, like 2/3 of New Yorkers want, including 74% of Democrats, including that poor, that's when you'll have a safety and a resilient grid and a strong grid that can meet the demands of the future industries and the businesses that want to be here and stay here and grow here.
Right. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
This time week, I'll be sick in bed with West Nile virus, thanks to a mosquito bite right in front of my house.
Mosquitoes spread more diseases than any other animal. The flu-like symptoms of West Nile virus can last weeks or months.
In 8 minutes, my daughter will be in an ambulance, having an asthma attack.
triggered by cockroaches.
Allergens from cockroaches, mice, and other household pests can trigger asthma attacks, a leading cause of hospitalization for children.
I'm going to be bitten by a tick today, and I won't even know it until Lyme disease turns my life upside down.
Incidence of Lyme disease has doubled since the 1990s, with an estimated 300,000 cases diagnosed each year.
Household pests are a real health threat.
Tick-borne illnesses like Lyme disease are on the rise.
And anyone can get West Nile virus anywhere.
Take steps to protect your family. Learn how at Pest.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Phil, do you get nervous when you see an announcement like on Empire Report where it says prison closure from the whole, because you don't know where it's going to be?
You don't know where it's going to be. I mean, last year's budget, and interesting in the budget when she presented it, there were no prison closures.
Yeah.
Then after the work protest, strike, whatever you call it, I call it a work protest because they were protesting the working conditions, safety,
right,
the quality of life. They protested, and I visited with the CEOs at Elmira, 5 Points, and Groveland, in and around my area. It was never about money.
No.
It was about quality of life. It was about their safety with the HALT Act. And what we've seen under Governor Cuomo and Governor Hochul is a constant closure of these correctional facilities. I mean, I remember when they closed Monterey Shock, which was a bastion for helping improve the quality of life for individuals and giving them a second chance. I don't understand it. They've closed well over 25, 26 prisons since 2011. And all you've seen is the violence and assaults continue to go up. So you have the prison closures jamming more inmates into fewer facilities, coupled with policies that make it more difficult for these CEOs to do the job and do it safely. And specifically, I'd refer to the HALT Act. This has been a terrible thing for our corrections officers. Basically, the HALT Act, for the viewers, it's an acronym for, I think, Human Alternatives to Living. It's basically about dealing with segregated confinement, the ability to segregate our most dangerous inmates from the rest of the general population. They refer to it as solitary confinement and torture. It's neither, because people have constant interaction with people when they're in segregated confinement. But it's a way for our corrections officers to be safe while doing their job. So if someone's disruptive, if someone's violent, they can segregate them from the rest of the general population. So it doesn't just help the corrections officers, it helps the other inmates. And since its implementation 3 years ago, here are the numbers. Inmate on staff assaults have increased 76%, going from over 1,000 up to over 2,000. But inmate on inmate assaults, which if they care about the inmates, has increased over 169%, from over 1,000 to upwards of 3,000. And in the same breath, contraband seizures have happened in that period of time, increased during that period of time by 32%. So really, with these prison closures coupled with these failed and dangerous policies, have really created a dangerous powder keg environment inside our correctional facilities. And they say that there's a staffing shortage. Of course there's a staffing shortage. Governor Hochul fired 2,000 plus corrections officers. Instead of bringing them back and welcoming them back, saying, listen, we understand, she fired them, blackballed them. I mean, she should be welcoming them back. I mean, that's why we have the shortage. And so they're bringing the National Guard to help the problem. Yeah, we have a staffing shortage. If you want to keep corrections officers, we should do a few different things. One, we should pay them more money, give them better benefits, including the death gamble. And for the death gamble, what that would means is you secure your pension retirement after 25 years as a corrections officer.
Right.
So if you continue working at 25, 28, because you want to stay there, help your colleagues and everybody. If you were to die, you would just get a death benefit 3 times your annual salary. But instead of getting a pension for your spouse at 25 years, what the death gamble would do is ensure that pension would be secured for the spouse of that family member who dedicated their lives for a very dangerous job to keep us safe. And that doesn't make sense. We give them better pay, better benefits. Death gamble. Help them with their time. That's going to help recruit. Give them hiring bonuses. Give them retention bonuses.
Right.
I mean, I said to the commissioner at a budget hearing once, I mean, there's staffing shortages in nursing home and hospitals too. You don't see them shutting them down. No, you give them recruitment bonuses, you give them retention bonuses, you pay them better, you give them better benefits. That's what we should be doing for our corrections officers, because they work a very dangerous job to keep us safe. Now, they got a lot of attention during the protest or strike. Most people, when they go drive by Elmira Correctional Facility, see that they don't know what's going on in there. They don't want to know. They just know they want the bad guys to stay in there. But they got a little taste of it when they talk to this corrections officers. Unless you have someone who's in corrections, a family member, you don't know how bad it is in there. They're under constant assault, and they don't feel like we have their backs. Unfortunately, what the governor and everyone is doing is stabbing them in the back, and you make these closures even worse because you do it in 90 days.
Right.
Especially during the holidays, 90 days is not enough time to uproot your family, move to another house, a new school district. Now, some people say, well, with this one, and this one might be a little bit easier because it's in the North Country. It's only one, thank God.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be any, but still, it's disruptive to a family. It's disruptive to a quality of life. But under the law, it's supposed to be a 1-year notification.
Yeah.
Why can't we give them the 1-year notification? But the legislature continues to kowtow to Governor Hochul, just like they did to Governor Cuomo, and allow for these 90-day closures. In my opinion, that's just an insult and slap in the face to these brave and dedicated corrections officers who do this dangerous job to keep us safe. So now we're closing another prison. They're consolidating another prison up in Collins, which Collins was the first facility to really start the work protest.
Right.
So it makes you wonder if they were targeted. Who knows? But it's just as these policies, the words that come out, it seems like they're more with our criminal justice policies are being enacted since one party control. It seems like the laws of justice are tipping the scales of justice in favor of the criminal over the law-abiding citizen, over public safety, over law enforcement, over crime victims, and it's just wrong.
Yep, we got to take a short break. Stay with us.
In the heart of nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dents to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
For our auto team, get a new 2025 Ram 1500 Crew, just $399 a month, and $29.99 due-it signing.
Or get a new 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sport S, just $399 a month, and $29.99 due-it signing, just $399 a month. And remember what Don says.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money. The Black Friday sales event going on now at Ferrario.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Thank you to everybody who sent in all these great comments, even Climate Fact Friday Bob coming out of retirement for one. We're going to read them at the beginning of tomorrow's program because we are almost out of time, Phil, and there's two things, getting away from energy, getting away from prisons. How's our buddies at the Gorilla Bots robotics team?
Oh, that was fun.
Aren't they? They're great.
We do a lot in this job, but to be able to go celebrate these bright young students and their accomplishments, the Gorilla Bots team comprised of students from Corning, Elmira, and Horseheads. I think it's Corning and Horseheads school districts. But they won first place in the regionals here in New York, and it allowed them to qualify for the World Championships in Houston, Texas, in April. And they finished first in the division, ranked I think 26th in the world. What you look at these young men and women and what their accomplishment, their futures are so bright. It makes you feel proud about the future. It's just an incredible accomplishment. So Senator O'Mara, someone friend and I were there to present them with resolutions and a proclamation.
That's great. And we are out of time, Phil, but quickly, when is the Salvation Army Bell Ringing Challenge?
Monday, December 7th and Tuesday, December 8th.
All right, the 7th is the Democrats. The 8th, Republicans. Will keep you updated on that. We'll keep promoting it. So, Phil, thanks so much for being on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We covered a lot.
Yes, we did. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. We'll be right back with we'll be back tomorrow with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I look forward to it already.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.